And London is where we find the CBC's Dominic Velitis. Hi, Dominic. Good to have you with us. Thank you very much for making the time. Let's look ahead a little bit, if we could. We were talking a bit with Canada's High Commissioner about what happens next. Talk a bit, if you could, about the structure of the royal family and how things change.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit confusing, Vashni, but if we start at the top, it's quite easy to understand that the Prince of Wales, Charles the Prince of Wales, is of course now King, and he is now officially known as King Charles III. He will be referred to as His Majesty rather than His Royal Highness from here on in. Meanwhile, his wife Camilla is now Queen Consort. Prince William has, of course, now become heir to the throne, but that doesn't mean that he will automatically become Prince of Wales. That's a title that would have to be granted by his father, who himself became Prince of Wales in 1958 and whose investiture was in 1969. But as Charles's eldest son, William has inherited the title the Duke of Cornwall. So he and his wife will now be known as the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall and Cambridge. Their children have become Prince George of Cornwall and Cambridge, Princess Charlotte of Cornwall and Cambridge, and Princess Louis of Cornwall and Cambridge. They will eventually become of Wales when William himself becomes the Prince of Wales. Things are a little more confusing, Vashni, when it comes to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Prince Harry and Meghan's children. Now, originally, you may remember that Archie was not given the title of Prince, as officially he was too far down the royal line due to the rules. But he and his sister Lilibet are now technically a prince and princess, and that is it in a nutshell, Vashni.
And Dominic, we were also speaking just off the top before I introduced you about some of the reaction in London, where you are. Reflect, if you could, a bit on, and we were seeing the crowds gather just even in the, well, it was lunchtime your time, but early in the morning for us when the note first came out, or the statement first came out, that the Queen was ill or resting comfortably was the sentence used.
Well, I can tell you, Vashni, now that this is really, it's really a story of two parts. Central London, which is where we are right at the moment, feels as though it's business as usual. The pubs and restaurants are full and doing business this evening. They normally are on a Thursday and Friday night as we head into the weekend. London, central London especially, is still moving. People are still going about their regular business. The city hasn't shut down. It's possible, of course, that the news is still sinking in, but it is a very different picture at some of the royal residences, especially outside Buckingham Palace. You saw those pictures a short while ago of some of the crowds there breaking out into singing "God Save the Queen." Hundreds, possibly thousands, have turned out there this evening. They've been laying flowers. They've been lighting candles at the door, at the gates, excuse me, of Buckingham Palace. And I should add as well, Vashni, that the weather here is terrible at the moment. It's raining particularly hard, but that hasn't stopped hundreds, possibly thousands of people from descending on Buckingham Palace. We have heard this, so yeah, it's a similar picture as well, Vashni, at Windsor Castle as well. So people do seem to be using these royal residences as a place to gather, to pay their respects, and just to be together and think about the Queen and her life, Vashni.
Okay, thank you very much, Dominic. I appreciate it. Dominic Velitis for us in London.